My commemorative speech is going to be about Super Bowl 48. I know it's kind of a weird event to commemorate, but it was the first time the Seahawks had won the Super Bowl, and I don't think I'll ever forget watching it. They did it in one of the best way possible. So they started the game being the major underdogs. Although they had the best defense in the league, they had to play the Broncos, and the Broncos had the number one offense in the league, including one of the all-time greats, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game of football, and every sports announcer and analyst thought that he would just pick apart the Seahawks defense, like he had done to so many other teams before this. I remember watching a YouTube video before the game about Skip and Bayless. They're really big sports, two very popular sports analysts. They were saying that there was no way the Seahawks would win the game because the Broncos were just too strong. If anyone has heard the phrase, defense wins championships, that came into full effect this game. Just 12 seconds into the game, the ball was snapped right over Peyton Manning's shoulder and back into the end zone. The Broncos running back fell on it, but we touched him in the end zone, so the Seahawks got a safety. That score was the fastest time anyone has ever scored in the history of the Super Bowl. And after that, it just got completely out of hand for the Broncos. The Seahawks drove down the field and made two field goals, so that made the score 8-0 because of the safety. It started off 2-0. Then during the second quarter of the game was pretty much when I knew the Seahawks were going to win their first Super Bowl. The Seahawks scored again to make the score 15-0 right in the second quarter. And then finally, the Denver Broncos thought that they were going to have a good drive down the field and finally score their first touchdown or field goal until Cam Chancellor hit Peyton Manning's arm and made him throw it up weird, and another defensive player, Malcolm Smith, caught it for an interception, and then he ran it all the way back for the touchdown. So at halftime, the score was 22-0. Coming out of halftime, the Seahawks were getting the kickoff, and the Broncos squib kicked the ball, so there was little chance that the Seahawks could run it back for a touchdown, but that's exactly what happened. Percy Harvin, one of the fastest players in the NFL at the time, caught the ball on the first bounce and ran it back for the touchdown, weaving through all the defenders. And after that, the game was pretty much over. The Seahawks scored again, which made the score 36-0. The Broncos finally scored on the last play of the third quarter, but it wasn't near enough to be enough for a comeback. The fourth quarter was kind of uneventful, except for another Seahawks touchdown by Doug Baldwin, one of my favorite Seahawks of all time, and in another interception by Cam Chancellor. Although Peyton Manning set a record for most completed passes in Super Bowl history with 34, which is crazy, it was not nearly enough to stop the Seahawks from doing whatever they wanted to do, pretty much that game. Malcolm Smith won the Super Bowl MVP with the stats 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, and 10 combined tackles. A defensive player barely ever wins the Super Bowl MVP, so it was really cool to watch and see him get that. I still watch highlights from the game all the time because it is such a fun game to watch. Super Bowl 48 was the first time the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and I think it is one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, and I think everyone should watch this